I usually don't make a second video. It's usually just one go and I give you the video. I've only a few times stumbled on my words and had to start over or made one that I didn't like. But this is a time that I was making one on what I thought the moon was and going a little farther into a theory that I had. I did a video on this a while ago. I think I called it Deep Moon Theory, and once again, if y'all look for that and it's not there, I will go find it for you and re-release it. But I think I uploaded it. And the idea is this: you don't know anything before the time you were, say, 5. Yeah, and obviously before you were born, you don't have a clue. And even at 5, like, your level of awareness of what you were looking at to, uh, you know, what reality was to you was a whole different thing. It was a whole different sphere of ideas and influences, and uh, you were the way you were interacting. So most people, we talk about, oh, you woke, you woke. What do you? Oh, there's all of these conspiracies, and then conspiracies turning to conspiracies on top of conspiracies, and then people get it all twisted up. And most people only really been getting into this for just a little while. Like, in the whole grand spectrum of the entire universe. And how long you've been alive, the fraction of your life, the moments, and most people can't say they spend night and day doing it. They spend, like, their off time. They got a job, and they got their friends, and they got what they're doing the weekends, and maybe a wife, maybe a boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. And this kind of stuff is just a little secondary outlet. It's like, whoa, people start coming across these things. They're in the David Icke thing, and then they get into, say, maybe some Michael Tsarian, and then they get into slave species with Michael Tellinger, and then maybe they start to look in the Mayan calendar, and they start to look into, oh, what's going on with this weather modification, and they start to look into symbolism, and then Masonry, and then they look into the Zionist Jews, and they look into the Black Pope, and then there's this big thing, and its connection to Hollywood, but then they don't really know that Hollywood, or the Holywood, where it comes from, or why it's on the 33rd parallel, because it comes from across the planet on the other side, where it's the original Holywood, the magicians, the magi. So there's way more to this whole thing. There's so many levels of awareness, consciousness, and archons, archetypes, and I was watching Wonder Woman, and I got to thinking about something very interesting. What if and doing this last video, it's something I've thought often, and it's about, is there 12 essential sun gods, basically, that stop and start time at will, and they're inside of all of these people, and they're uploading, downloading information into people. People, like we talk about, like body snatchers, or that person completely changed, or somebody has a near-death experience, or somebody wakes up from an operation and they can speak a different language, or they can play the piano. Like, there's a lot of strange things that go on here. That's what I'm saying. And we can be sure of a couple things. We can be sure that the information we've been delivered across the board, from where we came from, to the books that were written, to the food that we're eating, to, all of it is just, it's false. It's really, is it a mind virus? What does it have to do with? Where did it come from? And when I say you have to empty your mind of everything you think you know, I really, really, really mean that. I mean down to the sounds that you're making with your mouth. I mean down to your language, down to the way you think you process information. Because only if you can empty in your entire consciousness from that point, only from there could you expect to learn in the right way. And not that there's a wrong way to learn, but in a way that suits you as a human god, as a like the type of algorithms and the type of ways that teachers are taught to teach. It isn't for your benefit. And now, this is not a blame game, but it is something to consider, in the sense of, well, what is the moon? And in my last few videos, I attempted to answer that from a physical object perspective, meaning I think it's diamonds. And how did it get up there? There's a lot of ways that we can look at technology these days, and we know that we're told technology that you see in the public's hands is 20 years behind the technology they're using in the government. Which means if they told you that, it's probably more like 50 years. Like, we're 50 years behind of what we have access to. Imagine that. That's obscene. And then there's something well beyond that is beyond technology, which I'd call the metaphysician's mental cabinet of magic. And so if we just erase all of this ideas of what we think we know, like books. When was the printing press built? Oddly enough, I was in 1441. I was just talking about the number 144. That's very interesting to me. And we get into, books that are written, like The Burning of Alexandria. I mean, maybe? I don't know. Like, there's so many bits and pieces of information. Like, think of it today. You have an entire business of media that the information source comes from a few giant conglomerates that make, they tell them what to say. And so in the same way, the books, those are no different. You don't know that. We don't know that really, you have a lot of people that claim to be studious. They claim to be very, we're going to look into that. We're going to make sure that we can verify sources and et cetera, et cetera. I'm like, that doesn't make it scholarly. That doesn't make it right. Because, you verifying something that came from 1600, it's really hard to do. Carbon dating is already, people know this to be pretty false, and there's a lot of things going on that you have to just go, I can't accept and believe that, because money has gotten in the way, greed has gotten in the way, power, manipulation of all things, especially information. So you have to throw that all out the window and just kind of say, what is this? Why is the money called, why is it connected to the word moon? Why is Monday Moon Day? Why is the months connected to the moon? Moons. We know that the time is off. We know the calendar is off. July and August, Julius and Augustus Caesar. Why is the 9th month called September? We know sept means 7. October is the 10th month, but it's oct, which means 8. November means nueve, which means 9, but it's the 11th month. And December, Deca, means 10, but it's the 12th month. See, the time's off. It's not organized correctly. We know that the money is based upon nothing. There's a lot of things going on here that really can just go, well, the whole reality is kind of a mind virus. It doesn't allow you to use your senses. I mean, it allows you to, but you just choose not to. We've been so overrun with information that isn't critical to doing anything. It's just numerics and numbing and office and let's account for this and da-da-da. And we're in debt $7 trillion. And no, you can't be in debt. Like right now, if everybody just stopped working, like everything's cool. You can't be in debt. Nature can't be in debt. There's food for everybody. There's abundance here. There's no debt. It's all make believe. And so when we get out of the make believe land, like what can we start to see? And then we go, where did that moon come from? Where did that start? Why is it that the Bible happened to be written the year it was, that it was really kind of coming out as uh, the King James version, Shakespeare, 1611, somewhere around there. And then there's a whole bunch of things going on. Why does that take precedence then? Even though the guy that supposedly it was written about was 1600 years prior, and then we got to base this on just kind of guesses at did these people exist, or are these just part of the storyline? I mean, you can't verify any of this stuff. You're going to verify it with the underground vaults in the Vatican. Well, do you even know they exist? I mean, maybe. I mean, what's going on there? Why did Alexandria really burn? I mean, these are just questions, but considering the amount that we've been just led astray from our own power, our own godlike nature, our own humanness. It's you have to start from base. You just right there, like boom. What can I see? What can I experience? What can I accept? What do I see? And then from there, I kind of backtrack and I do a backwards mapping. It's like if you want to figure your way out of a maze on a piece of paper, it's best not to go from the beginning, but figure out where the end is first. It's always easier that way. It's always easier to do things in reverse. This is why the greats always say walk in reverse, write in reverse. It gives you a different frame for your mind to process information. And so when I do that, I look at the moon and I say, when did that come about? And to me, it looks like, and when I look at the movies and I know that like 90% of information in there is probably true, and there's some interesting things about the moon in all of these movies. You can start to get into movies that have moon in it, have the moon, or songs that have the moon in it. What can I do for you? Can I catch you the moon? I mean, one of the greatest lines ever, right? Jim Carrey's in a lot of moon movies. JC, go looking when he plays like he's like an alien, or he plays God, or he's inside of a moon, or look into Star Wars, or look into, I mean, there's so many. They Live. The moon is a giant thing. Star Wars is a huge one with the moon. And so when I start to, get into the last few videos I made, and you understand why I say I think the moon is made out of diamonds. Well, how to get up there? Well, the density of air is different. Maybe um, there's different chemicals, because certainly if you climb to the top of a mountain, it's gonna be hard to breathe because there's less oxygen. What if you go up higher? Why is it that somehow the water that's in the ocean can make its way up into a cloud? Like, how does that happen? I thought there was density or gravity, if you believe in that still. But you just throw gravity out the window because that's false. But if we still look at density, how did that water get up there to make it to a place that it has, like, clouds are a lot of times flat on the bottom, and it's thousands and thousands upon thousands of pounds of water, like tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands. I don't know how to decipher that, but like right there, and it's holding it up there. How? So if you go up even higher, I mean, what goes up into the sky real high? Helium, hot air, helium. There's a few things, there's a few gases. So imagine that the moon is held up there with helium, and there's a bunch of diamonds, and it's basically a solar panel with that uses diamonds and helium to hold it up there. I mean, that's just me spitballing this. This is just kind of a theory, and like, because everything we've been given is well far from the truth. We're not playing the game that the moon is 238,000 miles away and the sun is 93 million, because that's just not true. And it's observable. You can feel that. You can feel when the sun is close at noon, and you can feel when the sun is far away at 8 o'clock. This is observable. You can tell that the moon isn't given light by the sun, because I've seen them in the sky at the same time, and so have you. And in fact, they've been in the sky same time. The moon was only half full. Impossible. They were sitting there right next to each other. It would have been full if it was supposedly catching light from the sun. But we can. That's obviously to see right there in front of you. So this mathematics that's been used to pull pull the wool over your eyes. So what is the moon? What does it do? And this was about, I called it, maybe it was a dead sun, maybe it was the second sun, the lesser of the sun. I made a connection to, obviously, Cain, and I made a lot of connections here to 007 and John D and things, and giving you an understanding why I think it's made of diamonds and its falsity. Or maybe it used to be the sun, but we upgraded it to quartz because quartz is just, it's easier to run because we can run it off the earth. Maybe we made this, who knows? But certainly we can tell that the sun isn't what we've been told and the moon isn't what we've been told. And the moon is a very interesting one to really dig into because somebody had asked about the moon in relation to the tides, and we know that to be false, and there's lots of ways to prove that, including all of the other bodies of water that don't have tides, and when the tides are where they are, and there's so many things. So the moon has no effect on the tides. And what we can start to look at from there is if we got rid of the sun, this planet would die. Nothing would grow. But if you got rid of the moon, things would still grow. And my theory was, well, maybe the sun was there and we decided, hey, we want light all the time. We don't want 12 hours of darkness. We want light all the time. So let's just make another one of those things. But we can't make it out of crystal. We don't know how to do that. We don't know what the sun is doing. It's super high technology. So let's make it out of diamonds, and basically like a solar panel that's on your roof. What is that stuff made of? Is that made of carbon? I don't know. I should have just looked at that before this. But collect the energy and have basically batteries to charge the moon. Why is the moon any less of a light or any different of a light? It's kind of like LEDs. LEDs are terrible lights. They're only given a fraction of the light spectrum, where the sun is giving the whole thing. So we start to get into, well, the moon is, why is it only half lit? What's in front of it? There was a picture I put up here a minute ago, and I'll put it on the next video, but it clearly shows that there's a disk in front of the moon. It's two different objects, which gets into the idea that there's actually three things in the sky, or maybe four, maybe even more. But three seems about right. And so you got the sun. As I said, the sun is the earth. But the moon seems to be doing something that is extracting energy. And that if you got rid of the moon, the only thing that would happen is we would go back to a quality circadian rhythm. People would have to sleep at night. Like, I mean, to a degree, it would make more sense. And, yeah, there's still going to be lights, and there's still going to be, you can get your fire going and all of this. But the idea would be it would be more of a contrast to the energy, because if the sun is just doing what it's doing, everything's going to grow. And then when it's just dark, things are just not growing. They're not decaying, but we know that the moon decays things. We know the moon rots things. We know the moon makes things mold. So this is the very interesting thing to throw into the mix of what was the purpose of the moon, and was there very high technology, say, 600 years ago, say just before 1400, because we can't verify much of anything. And what if that's when the pyramids broke? What if all the pyramids and so everybody thinks of Egypt? No, I'm talking about all across the planet. There were pyramids everywhere. What if they all broke because the amount of power that was required? And so the moon and the pyramids, they just shattered. They broke. And that was the downfall of society, downfall of technology. And it got buried. It all got buried in history, got burnt down. Maybe they just really came through like, oh, technology is done. We got to burn this down. We have to get rid of this. At first they were like, hey, we want two suns in the sky. There'll be 24 hours a day of sunlight. Won't that be great? with their high minds of technology, but their technology actually caused more chaos than it was worth. And the result was all the technology being buried, and now we see the moon as whatever it is. And it seems like it doesn't need to be there. It doesn't really serve a lot of purpose. We say everything has a purpose, everything. Yeah, the purpose was to, at, at this stage, the, I don't know what it is, because it seems like all we've been filled with is nonsense about what everything is. So we don't even know what the sun is. We don't know what the moon is. We're told that they're in places that they're not. We're told all sorts of nonsense. We're told we need to consume little white pills to fix our body, and we know that not to be true. We know so many things to be not true. So, once again, while I don't believe in a necessary good and evil, or good and bad, or right and wrong, there does seem to be something that I like to make clear. There's a better than. There's a better option. There's basically good, better, and best. Like, the world is good now, right? Better would be like, hey, if you just pulled the moon out the sky, it wouldn't have any effect on anything here, except for it would allow the sun to keep growing things. And there would be the nighttime, just like it is like when there's no moon. How does that happen? That would be what it is. So it'd be like having always no moon. So what? It wouldn't affect anything. And if it did affect it, it would be in a beneficial way. Yeah, I guess that's all I want to really cover there. And it's just a theory, and I'll go a little deeper on it, I guess, as soon as I do a tiny bit of research on densities and what's going on in the air. Um, but it does seem to be that way. It does seem to have, like, is it, what you're seeing on the moon, are those LEDs that haven't gone out, and the dark spots are where LEDs have gone out? They look like cities. Well, maybe they're not cities. Maybe they're literally, that's where, those are the really good bulbs, and you can't replace them. We don't know how to get up there to replace them. It's a, there's all that. Maybe there is something on the other side of the moon. The moon doesn't spin. It doesn't go anywhere. It's one side of it. It's a flat face to the moon. Maybe there's something on the other side of it that it could be replaced. Or maybe they did. Maybe when they say they went to the moon, maybe they did go to the moon, and what they saw there was like, nope. Maybe there was some spacecrafts, or some alien people, or some giants, or some archons and architects of control that are using the moon for some purpose. Maybe it has to do with the Anunnaki collecting gold. I mean, there's all sorts of things that it could be used for. That doesn't change what it is. What it's used for and what it is two different things. So it does seem that the moon has, in my cosmology, in my theory of everything, the big toe, whether or not the moon was a sun that died, it doesn't seem that way to me. It doesn't. I mean, I suppose it could have been, but then you got these really interesting stories about the moon being parked there. If we had high technology, we get so far ahead, and we're like, oh, let's go put another something that's exactly the same size as that. Okay, we can measure the sun. Here's how big it is. Put a bunch of diamonds together, because they say diamonds are forever. There's always these connections. They thought it was going to be forever, and then they realized the technology they had wasn't going to last forever. And then the moon needs to be. So how would they solve that? Well, the moon could be rechargeable, and maybe all of these cycles are because of how long they know that the moon can be recharged, and it's getting to the point where you just can't, like your phone battery, you can recharge it only so many times before you really can't charge it anymore. So the sun's charging the moon. That's what an eclipse is. It gets really close to the sun. I have this little piece of organite that has this green, I forget what it's called, this green stuff that glows in the dark, and the more that you charge it, the less charge it will hold. What if it's the same thing? And now it's to the point where there's not really much charge it can hold anymore. And as the trickle-down economy works. The trickling down effect to everything else is, okay, if the moon doesn't work the way that we've been told, then we'll notice real quick that the tides weren't reliant on the moon, and we'll realize the connection to the women's periods didn't have so much to do with the moon, but in fact what they were eating and consuming with the heavy iron diets. And the moon, okay, well, the time's all wrong, because if the moon doesn't exist, what are we doing with these months here? And if the months don't exist, then we have to look at money, and like, how does money exist? Because it's based on the moon. And is Monday? Where did Monday come from? Moon Day? And so there's a lot of questions that come out of this. But certainly the idea for people is you have to eliminate everything you think you know about everything. And until you do that, you can't understand anything new, brand new. Like, you want to upgrade your system. Do you know how you upgrade a computer system? You have to get rid of the old one. Like, if you have an operating system, that hardware, you need to eliminate that old hardware, that operating system, and you upgrade it. It literally forgets everything. And that's where you start. Until you start there, you can't upgrade yourself. This is the idea that I give people if you want to fast, if you want your body to actually be as strong as possible, you need to get rid of everything in your body. If you want to clean your house and fix it, you need to get rid of everything. You want to paint your walls, you want to build something, you want to do something, you need to get everything out of your house before you start to make it anew. And so in the same way, you need to do that with your body, and you need to do that with your mind. There's no way that I could think these things unless they're just crazy things. Unless I said, no, I'm not buying into anything that these people are selling, not because of any other reason than like, hey, I get it. You all believe in this physical world. You have a paycheck to make, and you're willing to tell a few little white lies to, make sure, you get an extra $1,000 for that car. You're willing to sell this because it's part of a corporation. The corporation's main idea and goal is to actually make a profit, so they're going to start to cut costs, cut corners. I mean, I see how it all works, so I don't hold any grudges, but for me it's just like, nah, I'm not going to buy that. I'm not participating. I'm not purchasing that. So what I do is I eliminate all that and I go from there. And if you do the same, you probably will come to a lot of similar conclusions about what this is and your connection to it all. So I think that was enough of a rant, and I think I covered everything I wanted on the moon and what it might be, as I did in the last few videos. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. Stay wicked awesome. Be cool. Inspire the world. If you can't do that, at least eat well, inspire yourself. Pet a dog, pet an animal, be friendly, or whatever, however you get through this thing. And we'll talk soon. Peace.